So, Jerry, the question is, could PR be a potential threat to traditional advertising?
I'll say what I said earlier. You do justice to brand promotion. You know that you're looking for a good mix of communications disciplines. You're looking for a good mix of disciplines under the whole marketing umbrella,
right,
to impact on the brand. I don't see how these different disciplines, we're talking advertising now and public relations, you're looking for different skill sets. Are you achieving different objectives using those different skill sets? I don't see why you would want to replace one with the other. In some cases, you may want to do that, but in the main, you know that you're achieving different things with different marketing principles.
And I hear what you're saying, and I think that's in a perfect world. But I think there must be clients out there that go, I've got free publicity. Why must I advertise? And then the other question is, do people read or believe what they read?
Oh, yes.
Does editorial versus traditional advertising carry more weight, Marion?
Absolutely. There's no question that people don't believe. They do believe what they read. Absolutely. But the ironic thing is, too, not only do they believe what they read, they interpret what they read in different ways. I mean, if you ask the same person who's read an article, 3 different people, what did they make of that article? They'll have 3 different interpretations. But the point being, as you've asked, they do believe what they read. Therefore, there's no question that editorial isn't more valuable. I mean, if you had 250,000 Rand to spend on a new car, are you going to look at a whole load of ads of cars, or are you going to read a motoring journalist who tells you for 250,000 Rand, this is the best value on the market? You're going to go out and buy that car.
Margie?
I think it's that the advertising does get supported a lot by public relations.
As what Jerry was saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
However, people do not necessarily
Believe what they read.
Believe what they read in advertising. They, in editorial, far more so. Also, I would say that the editorial would get supported by other public relations techniques. For instance, demonstrations.
Absolutely.
But don't we have to look at the environment as well and say marketing budgets have been slashed, so now we have to think out of the box,
Right.
and this is an option.
I think that's a fantastic point, and that really brings us onto a slightly different spin on the angle, which is the business angle.
Yeah.
Companies are looking for a business result. What is going to shift the bottom line?
That's it.
And I think, again, if we go back to what we were talking about earlier with strategic communication and the different disciplines of communication, advertising has its place, always has and always will. Public relations, in what it is commonly known as today, which is speaking to the media to then speak to the public, has its place. But if we look at who delivers the actual brand promise and where you get your bottom line, that's your staff, for example, your internal communication side, which also has a role to play, because they're the ones that deliver the experience. So if you don't have engaged staff, you're not going to be able to get the bottom line return.
It's
so
all those pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah.
actually
It
have
is.
to
So if we look at
complete the picture.
Yeah, so Jerry will go on an advertising campaign for a particular client, and Margie, from a PR point of view, communication practitioners will raise expectation and create awareness in terms of advertising and public relations. So you've created a wonderful brand promise for a particular brand. It could be a retail outlet, could be a bank, could be a motoring manufacturer, but that might shift people's opinions, change perception and create awareness. But if you go into that bank and you don't experience what the advertising and PR practitioners have told you, then you're actually not going to get the bottom line return that you're looking for. So I think there are a whole lot of elements that come into the mix to deliver the brand promise, and it's not just PR or advertising.
Margie, I just want to get back to one of the challenges that was raised in the clip that we saw in terms of measurability and actually tangible results at the end of the day. Is it a problem, and what is the answer?
The problem is becoming less because people are no longer measuring to AVEs, which is advertising value equivalents, because as Marion said previously, there is no direct relationship between the two at all, and that has been proved. The value is far more. The public relations campaigns now and the communication strategies include objectives, measurable objectives, and they're looking at far more tangibles than just that value.
So there's no shotgun approach like maybe previously.
No.
Okay.
And there's a tone to things, and that's measured, and you know,
well, the way it should be.
yes.
Measuring on return. I want to talk to Jerry about social media.
Yes.
Friend or foe? I mean, we've seen it gone very well. we've seen it fall completely on its face. Look at the Gap rebranding.
Absolute friend. What we shouldn't forget is we all practitioners in our different, coming from different disciplines. What we shouldn't forget that the most effective way to market any product, service, send any message is through word of mouth.
Yeah.
And inherent in social media is that very fact and that very aspect of referral. People believe more what their friend will tell them about a particular service product than they could ever.
But Jerry, it could go either way. Like, to what point do you want your customers to engage with you?
One of the things I said at the PRISA conference, you talk about last week's conference. One of the things I said was we must never forget that brands have never belonged to the marketers. Brands have never belonged to the advertising agencies, the PR agencies, etc. Brands have always belonged in the hearts and minds of the consumer. The fact that the consumer, through new technologies, has essentially taken over, has more leeway in terms of engaging more and talking more about the brands. It's just a factor of technological development. I think it's a good thing. I think social media have brought a new aspect that is essential in the whole aspect of brand building, message dissemination, and so forth.
Marion, what do you think?
Well, that brings us to citizen journalism as well, with lots of varied opinions on. I'd be very interested to hear what Daniel says, because it can be, of course, very dangerous for a brand when people just start writing wildfire.
It's a risk.
It's a risk.
Yep. So it is a risk you take. Do we agree with that?
In the media, we don't really think that highly of citizen journalism, but it's there, and there's nothing we can do about it. And I guess views will change. Yes, I don't know how you feel about that, Daniel.
I think really, if we take a business approach to this, I agree with what Jerry said 100%, and you're also with you. But I think what the challenge that a lot of companies have been facing lately is that they go into social media because of the shiny object syndrome effect. They go into it because it's there.
Yeah.
My competitors on Facebook, therefore I must be on Facebook. And then it becomes a one-off marketing campaign, and then you actually end up shooting yourself in the foot. And going back to what we were talking about with mitigating risk and risk management and getting involved in it, is let's understand, why are we using social media? What is our end objective of using social media? How are we going to measure the impact? If we are going to open it up for customers to, let's use it as a platform to complain, for example, how are we going to manage the risk that emanates from what people are going to be saying there? So again, it goes back to having a sound business plan and making sure that we have 100% understanding what we're trying to achieve.
Risk is not a new aspect to this. Before the internet, this conversation was happening across the fence, was happening in the bus, it was happening on the train to work, whatever the case is. So the conversation is not new.
It's got a new
It's
platform.
just a different
But it's
platform.
now measurable.
And the aspect of managing risk is by no means new in terms of managing communications and brand communications.
But
We need to close. Sorry, Daniel. We need to close. I want you to take out your crystal balls and tell me what you think the role of PR will be in 10 years' time. Daniel.
I think it's going to be an integrated approach with more business focus, better measurement of formative and evaluative research when it comes to outcomes-based measurement, alignment to strategic thinking, and a definitely technological innovation.
How about you, Jerry?
I think the future looks good, looks bright for public relations. Inherent in the practice of public relations is the whole aspect of dialogue. Social media today demonstrates more and more why dialogue is more important than one-way communication. So from that perspective, absolutely rosy future for public relations.
What do you say, Margi?
Now, I agree with Daniel and Jerry. However, on the regulation side, there are rumblings, and it could take another 10 years, on license to practice. That debate has come the full circle. It's rumbling in the States once again, and here through the quality councils that are being set up.
We're interested to see what pans
So
out on that
hopefully
front.
more protection then for
Right.
Marion?
Well, I think from a perspective of who should become a public relations practitioner, the days of thinking it's a job to someone that can serve champagne and canapes and deliver
That was the
press
80s.
releases with balloons attached. That's long gone.
Those days are over.
And what did come up also at the PRISA conference by so many of us speakers was that now public relations people are going to be able to have writing skills. So I think that's very interesting. And I think just the role of as agreeing with everybody else, the role of the PR practitioner is changing.
I'd like to thank you for your insights and thank you for joining us on the show today.